because we're in the tech space, or a lot of the folks I work with are in the tech space, they focus so much on the product, which is necessary, and they focus so much on the process, but they forget to really focus on authentically connecting with people at a human level, multiplying that times the amount of people involved in the process so that it's scalable. So I would say that's what I think of when get asked, like, making sales social is really connecting out with them of what's important to them that drives them to work and what's important for them outside of work.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Bryn Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show. My guest for this episode of Making Sales Social is Ryan Staley, founder and CEO of Whale Boss, which helps software as a service founders and revenue leaders unlock, unleash, and unify their efforts regarding their annual contract values. A very admirable goal, I think, for any company. He's also a podcaster, so be sure to catch the Scale Up Show series. It's very popular. Lately, though, he's been concentrating on using AI to grow businesses. And as y'all may know, using AI in social selling and on LinkedIn is one of my favorite topics and one of our favorite topics here at Social Sales Link nowadays. To say that AI is starting that game-changing process in sales is the very definition of an understatement. AI is quickly becoming a game changer in the sales industry, enabling sales pros to so many different things, but definitely including automating mundane tasks and allowing them to really delve deep into the needs of their customers. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and exploring generative AI in my conversation today with Ryan. With that, Ryan, welcome to Making Sales Social.
What's up, Bob? How we doing on this hump day, if you will?
Yeah, doing good. Weird hump day. We're actually recording this the day after July 4th, and it's just us. It's going to be a strange week. I think we just need to embrace that and go forward. So with that, our first traditional question on the show always is, what does making sales social mean to you, Ryan?
Yeah, no problem. I can hit that. So essentially with that is this, like, I think, and this happens, I see it all the time with the companies I work with, the CROs I work with, and because we're in the tech space, or a lot of the folks I work with are in the tech space, they focus so much on the product, which is necessary, and they focus so much on the process, but they forget to really focus on authentically connecting with people at a human level, multiplying that times the amount of people involved in the process so that it's scalable. So I would say that's what I think of when get asked, like, making sales social is really connecting out with them of what's important to them that drives them to work and what's important for them outside of work.
Yeah, definitely. And spoiler alert for everybody out there, we're actually going to be getting into making sure that AI is social and is personal, because trust me, if you do something in AI and you just copy and paste to whatever it is you're doing without putting your voice in it, everyone's going to know about it. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. So let's back up a little bit, Ryan, and just tell us a bit about your background and the journey that led you to establish Whale Boss.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I had I don't want to say every, but I started off in my sales career. I started off door to door, like in college. Then I did the inside sales, which is effectively an SDR. Grew into leadership there. Then went into complex sales. Then went into building an organization, and then eventually, kind of what led to Whale Boss was, like, when I was starting what happened was I actually was a business leader, was a manager, started an office, and really was brought in to upgrade it because it was failing. And so new geographic territory, got that up and running. But what happened was I was so focused on working hard and long hours and hitting the result that I forgot about the people. And so what happened was, like, even though I was having results with my team, nobody on my team wanted to work for me because I wasn't really fun to work for at that time, right? Mm-hmm. I was getting pressed from the CEO. And then at the same time, I was pressing myself. And because I didn't have the experience and I didn't look at my life holistically, it led me to be just a very crabby person.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So what happened was I got demoted, and basically they're like, hey, your team doesn't want to work for you right now. So it was a failure in leadership, if you will, from my perspective. But we want you to start this new group and basically effectively build out our enterprise sales team. Now, that's not what they called it at the time, but they said, we want you to move up market, right? And so one thing, that actually became a blessing because we ended up growing that from 0 to 30 million in ARR in 5.5 years with only 4 salespeople. We didn't really have any marketing or any SDRs. And so that led me to creating Whale Boss because after going through that experience, I looked at my boss's job and the CEO's job, and I didn't want to be at the company I was working for anymore. It was in the middle of, COVID, started my own business. And then that's kind of how things began, man.
Yeah. Wow. That's something, especially during COVID. I mean, you hear so many stories about companies either starting up like yours, or like in our case, our a lot of our offerings really exploded during COVID. So it's just it's weird yet good how that type of thing happens out of adversity. So let's branch into something that I think some people see as adversity as well, but I think that people like you and I are only seeing opportunities out of it, which I think is how it should be, and I believe that you would agree with too. And that's generative AI, which is shaking up the sales industry with all kinds of AI based applications. I get emails and everything about it all the time. It seems like there's at least 3 launching every day. So what I'd like to know is what sparked your interest specifically in AI, particularly the generative ends of things, and how are you incorporating that into what you offer your clients in terms of services? And also you're probably using it internally too. So that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think where it kind of sparked my interest is this was in November of last year. So November of 2022, I had a founder on my show and he's like, hey, have you ever heard of this program called Dolly? And I'm like, no, I haven't, like DALLE, which is OpenAI's text to picture platform, right? And so I tried it out. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I just type in a couple of words and I get pictures out of it. I was playing with my kids. Then from there, I got switched on. I think that's shortly thereafter ChatGPT got released. And so I started using it like right when it was released over that time frame. And so that's where the initial spark came from. And then when I used it, there was really 3 unique applications that I saw for it that really just blew me away. One was there was tasks that used to take me 8 hours to create that I could get done in minutes. So that was step 1. Step 2 was like, if you look at long-term productivity, like acumen that requires a lot of cycles to happen. Like, for example, there was trying to really deeply understand how C-level executives were evaluated and compensated. Took years and years of work to truly understand from business meetings, right? And so just by typing in the right question, I compress a decade of different meetings into a couple minutes. That's the second one. And then last but not least was really looking at the capability to automate and identify outcomes for things that I want and then have it all done for me, right? So I would say those 3 layers are where I see like the biggest opportunity. And so, that's where I decided to start creating content heavily focused on the intersection of sales and AI. This year, this is probably back in February of 23. I've had millions of views on my posts as a result of it. And then, what I've decided to do as a byproduct of that, instead of just trying to teach people how to use AI, is to put it in their hands without them taking the time to learn it. And so I'm actually in process, and I have a MVP of a tool that's leveraged to enable those 3 things that I mentioned for sales and sales leadership.
Yeah, that's really cool, because I think that when it comes to the base nut of sales, I think that that's what you want things to do. And then as we were talking a little bit before the call, when you bring in the social selling part, that's when you start talking about more with it helping generating content and parsing out and piecing up content so that people aren't freaked out about content, especially salespeople, because salespeople are expected to sell. They're not expected to generate content all day long. And if a tool like this can really help them get back to selling, I think that that's huge.
Oh yeah, and you nailed it, Bob. I mean, the fact that like I was looking at this, and this is kind of what inspired me to try and create something special for the sales community, is because like I looked it up. There's probably like 18 different skills that you need to be successful in selling, ranging all the way from persuasion, questioning, organization, data analysis, copywriting, like what you just mentioned for content, storytelling. I mean, there's so many different skills. And like, we don't have Renaissance men and women running around. And I think that's why there's almost, it's probably going to be higher this year, but a 70% failure rate in terms of people hitting their annual goals in the sales community, right? Because of that alone, like nobody's a master of 18 different skills. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's kind of my viewpoint on it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I do think that people are getting into and then out of sales all the time just because they don't have everything there. But if AI can help people with some of the areas that they're not as strong in, it helps them not only stay in the industry, but make money for themselves and for their companies. And, just helps them become better, more well-rounded people overall.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So why is so you're in the SaaS sector. Why do you think that not only SaaS, but just the sales professional in general are attracted to AI, like I would say cats and laser pointers? So, they're obsessed with them and they're ready to pounce at a moment's notice. I think that a lot of people, probably higher up people in sales, but still a lot of people are going, this is really neat. I wonder how we can use it. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because 55% of their job, or maybe even 65%, is on non-selling activities that they don't enjoy doing. So 2/3 of every day is on crap that they're either not good at or don't want to do.
Right.
So if they could point something and quarterback a solution to handle that for them, I think that's a nirvana for salespeople, because that's one aspect. Two, it's a really hard market right now. And what I'm seeing based on data that's coming back, and this isn't just like subjective data, this is like tactical data, is that we're probably going to be at massive lows in terms of quota productivity, as well as like basically sales executives like CROs or VPs of sales staying at companies because they're not meeting goals, right? And so
Yeah.
I think you mix those two in a blender, 65% of things they don't want to do aren't good at. Plus, it's one of the toughest markets right now with the lowest production that people are having. That's ripe for disruption. So I think that's why people are looking for a different solution.
Yeah, definitely. And that actually flows right into to my next question. So, putting stuff in that blender, can you share some best practices or advice for salespeople, sales team? And since you mentioned it, I would lump in sales leadership as well on effectively and efficiently leveraging AI for their benefits.
Yeah, definitely. So I think step one is I have a useful like cheat sheet that came out recently. It's at AI for revenue, FOR revenue / I'm sorry, AI for revenue.com/CC. So it's cheat codes, right?
Oh,
And so basically you just click on that, pop in your email, and you'll get the cheat codes of AI for revenue and how you can leverage it, and it'll give you exact prompts on what to do and how to do it. So it's something that's super simple that I created to get started. So I think that's like leverage a tool like that. It doesn't have to be mine, it can be anybody's, but just get acclimated. So I think that's step one. Step two that I would look at too is literally, if you haven't and you're at the beginning of a learning curve, whether you are a CRO or a sales rep or even customer success, account manager, whatever your role is, take an hour of your time, just block an hour and think of like how you would use Google, or how would you, any kind of task that you want to do, and just try it out in chat GPT or Bing, right? Or Bard, right? And see how it comes back, right? Bard is better for like real-time research and data. And then because chat GPT just disabled their browser function.
yeah, I
'cause people
saw
were
that.
using that.
I
Yeah.
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then ChatGPT is better for creative writing and other areas. So just think of something that you want done in your job, take the time and try it. And then what'll happen is your mind will continue to expand based on what's possible for what you're doing just from that little moment or action. It doesn't even need to be an hour, it can be a half hour. But that'll get you started. So that's what I would recommend to get started and move in. And then, there's a lot of people creating content out there. I drop a lot on LinkedIn with actual like workflows, like 8-hour workflows in 20 minutes. There's also other people on there, or Twitter. What I would focus on though is because there's a lot of prompt bombing where it's like, leverage these 10,000 prompts and you'll get everything you want, right? But if you look at their background, they have no domain expertise or business expertise. So really, really try and filter through who you follow and listen to based on their experience and the area that you want to get better at. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when it comes to the prompting, and you mentioned that, I mean, if you have a cheat sheet that has 10,000 prompts on it, is it really a cheat sheet at that point?
it's so overwhelming, man. Like
Yeah.
and by the way, so like I got tons of those. I'm like, all right, I'm going to look at this. And then I test. Like I've probably spent over 150 hours in ChatGPT, and like the results suck from a lot of the free prompt templates. You can tell somebody just like spammed it together. So anyways,
Or they use ChatGPT to develop them.
yeah, they're like, oh, come up with 500 prompts, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's why one of the things that we're promoting, and at least as of the recording of this, it's not quite done. I think that by the time this drops, it will be done. But definitely thinking of using prompts as more of a framework, and we've actually developed kind of a framework with a cute acronym, CRISP. But really constructing each prompt and then remembering that just because you do one prompt, you're not done. You could keep on going. And the way I liken it is that because I'm a sci-fi fan, every single time you start a chat, it's like you're developing a new universe. And everything gets folded into that one universe, and you can keep building and building and building from that, and then developing the story, in air quotes, more and more about that. And it's just, I think that especially for salespeople, when you really start drilling down and when it comes to like discovering what a particular customer may need, what a particular company may need, what a particular title may need, all of that really comes down to how you write the prompts and how exact that those prompts are.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go to the flip side now with skeptics. So just like anything else in the world, there are skeptics out there. The skeptics that I'm talking about specifically right now is the ones who worry about AI's impact on sales jobs. I see it as potentially more of an opportunity for different sales jobs that may not even exist right now, or if nothing else, maybe more support for salespeople with people who have specific, especially what we were just talking about, prompt writing experience to help their salespeople out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be new jobs that are created like on that aspect. I do think at the same time though, I can see companies, because I hear this, I literally just heard this from a founder, and I'm like, what's your biggest challenge in sales? And like finding the right people or executives. He's like, all the other founders I talk to have the same thing. And so like, I think what companies are going to start to do is they are going to try and enable superhuman sellers, which is like kind of my vision of what's possible. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of people that are half in that are going to get cut. Right. So I see new opportunities popping up that are not fully materialized yet, right?
Right.
And instead of rev ops, it might be like AI ops, right? With enablement from that perspective. But I do see people at the bottom that are refusing to adapt, not making it, right? So I could see a big trimming of folks with that. Like, and I'll give you an example. Like I see this with agencies. Like, for example, I was looking at how I could repurpose video content, right? Talking to this agency, they're like, hey, to do all your clips from all your episodes for the month, it'll be $600 a month, right? Then talking to other entrepreneurs that I know and founders, and they're like, I came across this tool called Video AI, right? And so Video AI, something really cool is like, that took $600 and 48 hours for the video clips that I got. I could spend $50 a month, put this in and get the videos back in 15 minutes, right? Wow. So like that, so why I'm bringing up that example is because if there's companies that are in, let's even say an agency that are using that tech versus others that are still manually doing everything by hand, they're going to get blown out of the water. And so I see the same kind of analysis, or not the same kind of analysis, same kind of situation happening with the sales world as well. For those that aren't like leaning in and leveraging it, they're going to get left behind.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. What is the superhuman sales rep? You had mentioned that, and I kind of went, "Ooh, what is that? What is that exactly?" Because it sounds like something that sales reps should actually be aspiring to be like.
Well, and so I'm basically my newsletter. I have been focusing on creating like giving folks the ability to become superhuman by doing those things that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. You know, tasks to take hours and minutes, or compress decades into days, or work, you know,
Mhm.
short periods of
Okay.
time, as well as having automation. So if you have someone like that, and that's what my newsletter is focused on, it's called Superhuman Revenue, which
Oh,
I love I love the idea. I just like how it just rolls off the tongue, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So superhuman revenue. And so I'm sharing like how to do that. And so think of it this way, like what'll happen is like you'll have C-level players start to become A- players just because of the fact that they've really leaned into this. And if that happens, that means they're going to pass the B players that aren't, right?
Right.
Or B players turn into A players turn into A plus. Ramp
Yep.
time, instead of being 9 months or 6 months, it might be 6 days, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
how do we really just deconstruct, or I should say change and tear down, and
Yeah.
build a new opportunity of what's possible, versus the old model that was built on a paradigm and technology of decades ago. So that's kind of what I mean by that, where, you know, and it's not just from an education, it's from a productivity perspective, right?
Mhm.
Like if you have the ability to do something, and it cuts out, you know, 2 hours a day, all 5 days of the week, that's, I mean, 10
Yeah.
hours is a lot, right? And so
Yep.
there's capabilities to do that. And Mark Andreessen even talked about that, is about like, where are all the super productive people, because of what's available now, tools versus, you know, when we were kind of growing up through the sales ranks.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So let's kind of back away from the tech just a little bit here, and talk a little bit about the balance between all this AI stuff, which is cool, and both you and I love it. I can tell, but you still need to maintain human touch, and that's actually one of the things that we train on here at Social Sales Link is making sure that every every bit of copy that gets spit out. I train on this. I do this all the time. I think it helps. Read it out loud. If it sounds like it's coming from a computer, it's going to read like it's coming from a computer. So, make sure that it's as human as possible. So I guess just talk about in general the balance between AI automation and maintaining that human touch in sales.
Yes. I think that's really, really important. And like, I agree with you. So it's funny you say that, read it out loud. That's what my mother used to tell me all the time. When I was in grammar school, my mom was a former teacher. And so, but it works. I mean, it truly works. Like if you
Yep.
actually read it out loud, it'll tell you whether it
Mhm.
sounds fake or not. So I think like you do have to be careful with automation. And I'll give an example of it. Like there was someone who's like, yeah, it was like a technology, and it's like automatically books, you know, 10 appointments
Yeah.
a day or whatever, right? One of those. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna check this out,
Mhm.
see what this you know, what this is, right? What's this snake oil? And so I just signed up for like the case study, right?
Mhm.
So within 24 hours, I got like hammered with calls, texts, email, and I'm like, don't ever. I like put them on the do not just unsubscribe, do not call, like everything,
Mhm.
because it was so freaking annoying. So
Wow.
that's what I caution people not to do, because you're going to lose a customer for life if you try to over automate and spam the shit out of people. So where I was kind of coming from on it is like, hey, there's a lot of opportunity to, if you offload the mundane, the things that you aren't good at, right, for 90% of the way there, and then you do the 10%, like you're saying, then that's
Mhm.
going to enable you to be exceptionally well or exponentially better than a lot of other people. However, what you should use, this is my advice, the time and the space for is to, because you've automated the mass pieces that you can, that
Mhm.
aren't like spam-ish, like I mentioned,
Right.
it'll give you freedom and space to be a real human with the people you're actually selling to and connecting with them at a deep level. So that's my 2 cents. You're nodding your head, so I assume you agree on that. But this is
Oh
kind of
yeah.
what I
Yeah, that's actually something that I've kind of always felt, but I've never really been able to like voice it in such a succinct way. So I'm going to be going to the transcript and like writing it down and
like.
hanging it like right next to my monitor or something like that, because that's actually perfect. That using AI can help you be more human, which most people don't really think of it like that. But as long as you're going through the thought process that you just went through, it actually can help you be more human. So with that in mind, let's talk about social selling and LinkedIn. How do you see that kind of how do you see AI, chat GPT, whatever, plugging into social selling and LinkedIn? I obviously have my perspective. I'm curious about your perspective.
Well, there's a lot of ways to leverage it. Like, do you use Taplio at all, or have you heard of Taplio?
Tablet. No, that's a new one. There's so many
Yeah, it's like it's a LinkedIn tool for like creating LinkedIn content or helping with LinkedIn content,
things.
right?
Okay.
So there's ways to leverage tools like that or ChatGPT with it, where you could, for social selling, I should say, you could customize the information or the content based on who you're selling it, or not selling, but who you're trying to be dialed in with at a social level on social selling, right? So you can leverage it based on their profile, you can leverage it based on their experience. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities for that. I know folks, like we talked about before the show, are leveraging it for comments and other areas. However, one of the things is, like, growing up, when I first started publishing on LinkedIn, I never knew the copywriting frameworks, right? I didn't know what they were.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, oh, just create content, do this, tell a story, blah, 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 right? And so there's a lot of technical components like that that would take a really long time to learn and understand. And if you just have the core frameworks understood, you could integrate that into your content writing, profile, all those areas. So that's kind of where I see the opportunity with that as of right now on day one. And then also expanding and contextualizing the content from LinkedIn to Twitter to
Right.
Instagram, across the other platforms, so that you can get much more reach for the same content. So that's more like distribution systems and growth is what I would look at.
Sure. Absolutely. So we always kind of wrap up the show with one of those one thing you can do right now types of things. So what is one thing that salespeople, sales pros can do right now with AI that will immediately help them? I don't know if immediate's probably the right phrase, but something that will make a big difference in how they do things when it comes to their jobs.
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's a lot of different areas you could go down for this. So I think the way I would look at it, because there's basically every step in the sales process, there's content, there's so many different areas. So I think, and I've never really had anybody ask that question this way, but I think this is
Mhm.
probably a good answer, is look at what, like, you really love doing in your job, right? Like, I took a strengths finder test and found out like what I
Mhm.
was really good at. And usually if you're doing what you're really good at, you really enjoy what you're doing, right? Which
Right.
is a flywheel that creates like asymmetrical results.
Yep.
So look at what you really love doing, and then look at what you really hate doing and are not good at doing. Okay. And then
Mhm.
try and leverage AI for the things you hate doing or not good at doing, because then that's when you get the stuff that'll go from like 2 hours to a couple minutes. That's probably better than the way you do it if you spent the 2 hours on it. And then your whole world will change because you'll start compounding use cases of that. But just that one spark, I could think, will make a really, really big difference in terms of your overall job satisfaction and in your results as well.
Wow. So because of all those things that you hate, people tend to just probably push those off or never do them. So AI could end procrastination.
It could. I mean, like, I'm telling you, man, there's a way where, like, one tool that's, you could literally create a website in like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
like a WordPress website. And like, that's something
Yeah.
that would cost $5,000 to $8,000 to do, or 3,000 or $2,000 to do, right? So yeah.
That's amazing. That's just amazing. So before we go, tell us a little bit about your podcast, the Scale Up Show, and what people who listen to it can expect to gain from it.
Yeah, so I've been interviewing AI founders a lot lately, and or companies that are like exceptionally good and have like just ridiculous results, and deconstructing like how they did it, why they did it, and what they're doing to make that a reality. So I think that's the biggest gain you're going to see from the show. At the same time, I mean, I've had like the founder of Travelocity on. I've had people that have exits to LinkedIn. So some amazing folks to learn from. I'm going to start incorporating more content myself on there, because I've seen so much in an aggregated view in such a short period of time that I want to start sharing with the world. So
neat.
And help with that superhuman aspect. So I'm going to start doing more solo episodes as well. So that's what you could expect from it.
Cool. Very nice. Very nice. Looking forward to hearing that. So if people want to learn more about you and your offerings just in general, including that newsletter, because I think I'm going to sign up for that myself, where can they go?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, www.ryanstaley.io. There's a link to click on the newsletter there, and then daily content for LinkedIn is in, I distribute that almost daily. I have all these cheat sheets, but you'll see a link in there also to subscribe for my newsletter. So you can do it on LinkedIn in my profile or on my website, ryanstaley.io.
Very, very good. So Ryan Staley, founder, CEO of Whale Boss, and host of the Scale Up Show podcast, and just doing a whole bunch of things in newsletters and LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, Bob, it was a blast being on the show, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you for streaming this episode of Making Sales Social. So remember, when you're out and about this week, be sure to make your sales social. Thanks for watching, and join us again for more special guest instructors bringing you marketing, sales training, and social selling strategies that will set you apart. Hit the subscribe button below to get the latest episodes from the Making Sales Social podcast. Give this video a thumbs up and comment down below on what you want to hear from us next. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.